Hello and welcome to this episode of the Spiced In Podcast. My name is Jacob and I'm your host. This is, coming off the longest break I've easily had since starting this podcast. I did mention in the last update kind of mini episode that I'm studying for the LSAT, and that has not changed. But in addition, this past week I both went on my first vacation, safely, socially distanced of course, in about a year. And I also moved, which I had teased a little bit before. So I've been very, very busy the last week specifically. So, but that's mostly done now. Well, vacation is definitely done, and the move is like 90% done. I've got my new office set up, and I can't wait to share that with you guys in some form or another, whether that's, Galaxy of Heroes videos. I did promise that we're going to do some VR stuff, I think, with Vader Immortal. And eventually, Tales from Galaxy's Edge, and I have it set up, and I've used it once since moving in, and it's been very nice with all the added room. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's way better than the little 3 foot by 4 foot area I was using before. So, looking forward to it. As far as quick Star Wars news, I'm gonna blaze through this. Because trust me, we're going to want to jump right into the meat of this episode. But I believe it's kind of hard because I can't remember what I've talked about since the last time we recorded. The Mandalorian the Mandalorian standalone novel has been delayed until basically almost a year out. It was supposed to be coming out in December. I think it's now slated for next September maybe. Yeah, I think it's right before a hypothetical season 3 would happen. So that's a big deal. The book should have been here about 4 months, and now it's not. So something definitely must have happened behind the scenes. I don't know if there was a change in direction for the show, and that prompted a pretty hefty rewrite. But the author is still attached to the book, so it's not like his vision was not what they wanted and they outed him. He's still there. But the book is probably being rewritten for the most part. They announced the final book in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. I believe it's Victory's Price. Is going to come out, I believe, in March. So I have a lot of work to read all those, because I haven't even read the first 2 books. I'm I'm falling behind so bad on keeping up with a canon. But Thrawn's out in a week now. I will definitely read that ASAP. We have tomorrow, if you're listening to this as it comes out, tomorrow is the release of Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark, and that's what we're here to talk about today. I am super, super thrilled to have my first, official Star Wars person guest on the podcast. I have with me Sarah Beth Durst, the author, or one of the co-authors on the Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark. She wrote the chapter about Katuni and Ahsoka based on the episode A Necessary Bond. And it's very nice of Sarah to take some time out of her day to talk Star Wars with me. I think you'll really enjoy the interview. But without further ado, let's hear what I had to say with Sarah as we talk about Star Wars, this book, and how she got involved with the project. All right, so with this section of the podcast, we have a special guest with us today. I have with me Sarah Beth Durst. She's a self-described author of fantasy books for all ages. Some of her most recent works include the novels Catalyst, Fire and Heist, and Race the Sands. So she's also an author on the new Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark anthology book. She wrote the chapter Almost Jedi, based on the episode A Necessary Bond from the Clone Wars. So, Sarah, thanks for coming here, and welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm very excited to talk Star Wars.
Yeah, well, so am I. So, this is your first foray into writing for Star Wars. I'm sure it's incredibly exciting. How did you kind of get involved in this project?
Actually, through Twitter. I got a DM from Jen Heddle, who is the fantastic editor over at Lucasfilm and Disney, who handles the Star Wars books there. Said, "Hi, Sarah, this is Star Wars knocking." I'm like, okay, Star Wars knocking. I'm absolutely opening the door. Come in, Star Wars. Then she asked me if I was a fan of Clone Wars. I'm like, absolutely. And that's how it all happened.
Wow, well, that's quite the entry into this area. So you said you're a fan of Clone Wars. What's kind of your background with Star Wars? Were you a big fan growing up, or was it something you kind
Oh,
of got into later? Or
oh, as long as I can remember. My parents taped, I was too young to see Star Wars in the movie theater,
Mhm.
but they taped Star Wars on TV, onto VHS. And I don't know if there's something wrong with the TV or with the recording, but about every other scene it would flip between color and black and white, like you're
Mm.
watching the beginning of Wizard of Oz. And I watched that flipping back and forth between color, black and white, until I wore out that VHS tape. To this day, whenever I watch Star Wars, there are certain scenes I was like, oh, they colorized that. I do remember Empire Strikes Back was the first movie I think I ever saw in a movie theater. I have this
Wow.
clear memory of, that part when Darth Vader's helmet comes over his head.
Right.
He's using like the pod thing where I was absolutely convinced you're looking directly at his brains. It gave me nightmares for like days. It was
Oh,
also my first experience with a cliffhanger ever in the story. Now,
okay.
got to the end, like, Han Solo's not here. I have to wait. Yes, it was extremely influential, and I think it shaped my sense of what story is.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's for a lot of people, it's been very influential, and as being a writer, especially, I can't imagine how that's kind of led to your, influencing your creative process as well. Your vast majority of the things you've written in the past are original novels. You've done like a few anthologies here and there, some short stories. But what makes a story like this unique, where you're working with a big group of authors on something that's a little bit smaller?
It was an absolutely fascinating process. I enjoyed it so much. It was remarkably different, actually, from writing original material. I had no idea how much I kind of wing it when I'm writing original stuff. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can do this. I can do that.
Hmm.
It's kind of the difference between writing a sonnet and free verse, because you have these constraints, everything. It's a retelling of an episode, season
Hmm.
5, episode 9, Necessary Bond. So you know what's happening. You know all of the dialogue, and I watched it kind of screen by screen. You get all the dialogue exactly right, and you have to get the external to match what the story is. But the internal life of the story is wide open. So it's got this cool freedom to see the world from the inside out in a new way. And particularly with the story I wrote it from the point of view of Katuni, who is one of the Jedi younglings. And no one's ever written from Katuni's point of view before. So I got to invent her heart and her mind, and to see Ahsoka and the world, the universe of Star Wars through fresh eyes, which
Hmm.
was such a cool experience.
Something I thought was interesting with the Certain Point of View novel. It's an anthology that came out a couple years ago for the 40th anniversary of A New Hope. It was 40 different short stories from 40 different points of view, from like the snake and the trash compactor all the way to, just anything you can possibly imagine, Biggs or whatever. So what I heard is all those authors on that book were basically emailed a Google Doc, and they had to race to sign up for whatever character they wanted. And a similar they're doing another one for Empire Strikes Back this fall, and apparently a similar process happened there. So what was kind of like the process for picking out your episode that you wanted to focus on?
This one, they actually asked me to write Ahsoka.
Okay.
And I think it's because in my original work, I write a lot of really strong girls and women.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, after you write a whole bunch of books, I have 20 books out, 21 actually, you start to notice your own obsessions. And I've kind of been obsessed with different ways to be strong. What does it mean to be a strong character, and how a different person can be strong without changing the essence of who they are. So I think that's why I was asked to do Ahsoka, because I have so many different kinds of strong characters, and particularly strong women and strong girls in it. The one constraint I was given for writing was that it could not be from Ahsoka's point of view.
Mm.
So I watched every single Ahsoka episode a couple of times through all the seasons to try to choose which one I could do. So you need a character that's going to be with Ahsoka for the majority of the time of the story, so that they're seeing what happens. She's alone a lot. She's with Anakin a lot. I couldn't do Anakin because somebody else is doing Anakin's point of view. So I was waffling between doing Barris, when they're in Geonosis and they're going in to fight all the droids and the Genosians, or the Younglings arc, which begins with a gathering where she accompanies as an escort this group of Jedi younglings to get their first lightsaber. Now, I've always desperately wanted my own lightsaber. In fact, when my husband and I first got married, we had this umbrella stand that somebody had given us as a wedding present, and we just filled it with lightsabers. And everyone that came to visit, they'd walk in, they'd look at the umbrella stand with the lightsabers, and they'd immediately tease us about, how old are you? Why do you have lightsabers? And we'd look at each other, and within 5 minutes, they would be having a lightsaber duel. There's just something about a lightsaber that draws everyone. Right. It's just an awesome thing. So I was really drawn to this arc that began with this, and I started looking at Katuni in particular. I could have done any of the younglings I wanted. Mm-hmm. But Katuni's story just drew me. The way she looks at Ahsoka, the way she interacts with Hondo, it resonated with me, and that's why I chose that story.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she's such a strong character. You know, all the younglings in this arc experience a lot of growth from, like, they like pretty much directly state in the first episode, here are their shortcomings, here's how they're overcoming it, and here's like how they're growing. But yeah, Katuni really emerges as like one of the strongest characters, even though you have Petro, who's the overconfident kind of, natural person who's trying to lead. It's Katuni that kind of feels like the heart of this whole group. Yeah. And it's very cool to see her. And, she's the one that, she has these strong interactions and is, capable when she's up against Hondo. And then she's also the one that in the end is the person who physically saves Ahsoka. And, it's her that cuts off the cuffs or whatever. So, I think she's a great character to focus on. And, something I want to kind of touch on, you said you focus a lot on female characters, which is great. I think to Star Wars credit, there are obviously not many female characters in the original trilogy, but the ones that were there, I would say, are incredibly strong characters. You have Leia, who's incredibly capable. She's not just a regal princess. She's someone who's, firing down the hallway in the prison block with a blaster, taking it from Luke, as he doesn't know what he's doing. And you have Mon Mothma, who's leading the rebellion. You don't have many female characters, but when they're there, I think they're incredibly powerful and well used. But Absolutely. Something, especially in the past year, I think we've all as a society come to notice how representation in media matters, and how, it's important for people, especially young people, to look up to people that, look up to characters that represent them. And something I thought that was kind of powerful, a cool way to approach this episode is you have a young female Katuni with, still someone who's young, a young woman in Ahsoka, but someone who at this point is still grown substantially from where she started in the series. And you have that female role model that almost allows the audience to experience this through Katuni, see what it is to be a young woman looking up to another young woman as a role model. I thought that was kind of a powerful relationship there. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Having that entryway into a story, having that character that says, it's okay if you come in, I think it's very powerful. I love having that young character who's learning to be a Jedi, because in a lot of, when you start with Luke, he's the chosen one. There's only one Luke Skywalker. Okay, there is another Skywalker. But with the younglings, you get to see like, oh, maybe I can go to the academy too. Maybe I can become a Jedi. Maybe I can have my own lightsaber. And I think that's really powerful to have a way, not that your imagination can't take you into any character. You can be Jabba the Hutt if you want to. I don't know why you'd want to, but you could. But having someone whose experience lines up a little bit with yours, it's easier to fit inside their skin. And that's really powerful. I mean, that moment in Force Awakens when Rey's in the forest and the lightsaber flies through the air and it lands in her hand, I cried. It's such a powerful moment to think that lightsaber could land in my hand.
Right. Yeah, I think, I'm really, really excited to see, how this relationship gets fleshed out when the book comes out. Yeah, it's just such a powerful relationship. And Katuni, I think, is a great character, not only in this episode. We also see her just a little bit in season 6 with the Yoda arc, and how she's kind of this almost like spiritual guide
it's not, maybe not really her, but it's still, her spirit, her personality that is showing Yoda, what could be for the Jedi and what could have been.
She's an impact in the universe. One of the coolest things I discovered, which I hadn't known before I started writing the story, so she has this relationship with Hondo. She forges an unlikely friendship with him in the episode. And then later in the Star Wars life, Hondo names his ship after her. He names his ship Katuni. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I was doing some more research for the episode. I think it's out of the Smuggler's Run ride at Disney or something like that where it gets mentioned. But yeah, yes. It's like, okay, it's so cool that probably 30 years or so after, 50 years? Yeah, about 50 years after the events of this his encounter with Katuni, she's impacted him so much that he's still naming his ship after her.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Hondo has had no shortage of, memorable encounters with big power players in the Star Wars universe, but of all of them, for him to choose to name a ship after he chooses Katuni. So I think it means a lot.
That. Also, that ride in Galaxy's Edge is fantastic. I don't know if you've done it, but it feels so cool. You feel like you're in the Millennium Falcon.
I'm so excited to go, hoping that the world gets, a little bit better about how it reacts to COVID, and someday I can attend. But yeah, holding off for now.
I have faith it will someday.
But yeah, speaking of Hondo, there's so many fun characters. I feel like in this arc, you have all the different younglings that have all their unique personalities, and then Hondo as well. That you have so many fun characters to play with. Did you have anyone in particular besides Ahsoka or Katuni that you had an interesting time getting in their mind and writing about?
It probably was Hondo because of that special relationship he has with Katuni. Ahsoka's also the obvious answer, but you built her out there. Being able to look at Ahsoka, because you see such a different view of her in that episode. You see how much she's grown. She's not Snips. No one's seeing her as Snips in this episode. They're seeing her as Padawan Ahsoka Tano, and Padawan isn't young to them. Padawan is the thing they're aspiring to.
Right.
So I love that different view of her. I think it shows a side that we haven't gotten to see before. Which really develops her character. Her character growth in the Clone Wars is just so brilliantly done. Her whole arc is really one of the driving forces of that series. I think that's part of what makes the series shine. That and the portrayal of Anakin, which is so fantastic and so well done.
Yeah,
I love Clone Wars.
The series as a whole is just so interesting because you have, if you look at the movies, you have Attack of the Clones, and the Clone Wars doesn't start for the last 20 minutes of the movie. And you have Revenge of the Sith, which is the end of the war. So you have 3 years of time where, this huge, influential, really the main event of the prequel trilogy doesn't really get shown in the movie. So you have this, great 7-season series of television that fleshes it out and gives more development to Anakin and more development to a character we didn't even know existed in Ahsoka. So
it broadens the universe so much, which I think is such a wonderful thing. You always felt watching the movies that you were inside a big universe, but the focus was so tight on a single family that it was hard to imagine yourself as part of it. It was hard to imagine how broad it could get. But the Clone Wars proved how much space there is, how many stories there are to tell, that they were able to continue on with Rebels, which is fantastic, Mandalorian, which is phenomenal, as to how much is out there. We actually, the first thing we did when we started sheltering at home was institute a family movie night every single night, and we started with watching all of the Star Wars movies in order, and that was an excellent start.
Can't imagine a better way myself to start that off. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, speaking about the Clone Wars, the series has gone on almost for over a decade now. And it has really transformed Star Wars as a whole, showing us all these cool stories that we can never possibly have imagined. What do you, as both a writer and a fan, how has that series impacted you?
The whole Star Wars world has really impacted my writing enormously. If you just start with New Hope, with the first one, it's shaped what I think of for story, like with a capital S story, what I feel like is the arc, a satisfying arc of a plot. If you look at any, I write fantasy, not space opera, but if you look at my books, they really do have a Star Wars feel to them. The central core is always hope. There's a mix of adventure and humor in them. And Star Wars taught me that. Clone Wars in particular taught me how broad a world can be, which was wonderful because I love making up worlds. I mean, as a kid, I used to like tape together all these pieces of paper and draw huge fantasy worlds. I'd have these index cards where I'd write down character names and give them all a magical power and a talking animal sidekick. So I've always loved living in these fantasy worlds, and Star Wars gives you permission to do that. It gives you permission to build worlds and explore worlds and be within them. One of my books in particular that was definitely influenced is my latest, Race the Sands, which is an epic fantasy standalone adventure about two women who are vying to become champions of the elite sport of monster racing. And my editor has always described it as a really deadly form of pod racing.
I mean, pod racing is pretty deadly in its own right, but yeah, that sounds interesting.
The pods in pod racing don't try to eat you. So
that is very true. You know, there are other hazards aside. Yeah, I don't think that's something that Sebulba has had to worry about in the past. So. All right. So just a fun one. You know, you talked about how you have an umbrella stand of lightsabers. It's, you know, quite an accomplishment. And even I saw in your little StarWars.com blurb that you had always dreamed of having lightsabers growing up. If you had to, you know, be one of these younglings and make your own lightsaber with our droid companion on the Crucible, what do you think your lightsaber would look like?
Purple, like Mace Windu's. I like the purple lightsaber. Probably the handle would probably look like his too, because it's his is very like sleek and it's got the silver and the gold and the black. Yeah, I think a sleek, elegant handle and a purple lightsaber.
It's very elegant.
That's what I go for. How about you?
I don't know. I mean, I love green, the green lightsaber color. Like Return of the Jedi, like Luke Skywalker was the coolest thing to me. So, you know, disregarding the fact that the only reason it was green is because they had to be outside. But
I did not realize that. That's fantastic.
On the sail barge, they had never done like an outside, like daytime shot with the lightsaber before. And they're like, well, blue's not going to work well with the sky. So they had to go green instead.
That's fantastic. I did not realize that.
Yeah. So probably something green. I don't know about like hilt design. I think something like sleek and simple. Just like with small ornamentation here or there would be my style. I'm not like anything crazy over the top.
Right.
But, yeah.
I do admire Ezra Bridger's hilt with the blaster and the
blaster one.
That's pretty clever. Maybe a multi-purpose hilt would be kind of awesome. I'm not sure what else I'd have it do, but
no. Yeah, no, that was definitely an interesting design.
Yes.
Definitely took some liberties with that one there.
It was excellent. It fit the character so well.
Right. Yeah.
Of course you would do that.
Mm-hmm. So I always felt like, you know, I like, as much as I love the Clone Wars, I really love Rebels. I love that like core crew and that just like the fact that you get that, you know, complete story from like beginning to end.
Yeah, Rebels was fantastic. Chopper's great. I love that the droids in Star Wars are so well done. I mean, the droid in Rogue One, so much personality. And all the personalities in Rebels are so fantastic. There's so much character growth in all of them. And the art is beautiful. They did a fantastic job animating it.
Yeah, I really love the like Ralph McQuarrie style, like the concept art style. So it's really cool. I know it's not for everyone, but I really appreciated it in Rebels with like, especially with like the look of Vader. And I also really like that thinner kind of lightsaber look than as opposed to Clone Wars. There's something like a little bit more elegant to it, I feel like. But
yeah, I thought it was elegant too. I liked in Rebels, it captures the fear of Darth Vader. Darth Vader becomes scary again. This menace, you know, when he's walking through it recaptures that feeling of when he first appears in Episode 4.
Right. Yeah, between Rebels, and the end of Rogue One especially, I think are just so great at showing. Yeah, and like Darth Vader's not just, you know, some guy with a lightsaber. He is terrifying. And if you were in the world of Star Wars, like if you're not, you know, remove yourself from the couch and put yourself in that world, it would be the most scary thing you could possibly imagine, was just this hulking monster coming out with you with a red lightsaber.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, when we were in Disney World, we did do character greetings with Darth Vader and Chewbacca. And Darth Vader was seriously intimidating. I was standing there. I took a step back. And I'm like, no, Sarah, get a grip. But still, and Chewbacca was just as huggable as like he should.
That's good. So, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something even like tying it back to A Necessary Bond, I think that episode and the episode with Kit Fisto, where they're both going after General Grievous. I think those two specifically show how like he can be terrifying. He's like gets played off for laughs a little bit in the movie sometimes, where he's not. It's the problem is you have two incredibly competent, skilled Jedi going up against this villain, so he makes him seem a little bit less menacing. But when you throw it in the shoes of just your average Jedi, whatever that means, he's terrifying and a menace.
Absolutely. Can you imagine running into General Grievous just in a slightly dark and tall way?
Yeah.
You have nightmares for months, so assuming you survived it at all.
Probably wouldn't, but here's hoping.
I wouldn't. I have zero survival instincts. That's why I write.
Yeah. And that's why I record podcasts. So
an excellent choice.
Yeah, I'm definitely not built for as much as I would love a lightsaber. I know if I had a real lightsaber, it would end in catastrophe. So
yeah, me too. I always say if there's a zombie apocalypse, I'm the friend you want near them because these zombies will be eating me and you can escape.
Yeah. So I think it's one thing recently came out was I think it was 2 or 3 days ago. StarWars.com released the narrators for the audiobook for Clone Wars. So your chapter, as well as all the other chapters, are narrated by the original voice cast from the Clone Wars, which means you get Olivia Hack as your narrator.
How cool is that? Katuni is going to be reading Katuni. I love that. I can't wait to listen to it. It's going to be so cool. I love that. Audiobooks are so great when you get to hear somebody transforming your words into another medium like that, and to bring it to life in their way through their voice. It's very cool. And to have it voiced by Katuni herself.
Right.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. What's that like? Do you ever like listen back to an audiobook of something you've written and like kind of get new insights that you didn't even think about when you were writing? Or
it is. Yeah, you do, because they interpret the characters differently. Their voices are interpreted differently. So it's a sort of weird out-of-body experience where it's your story, but it's taken a step further. And that happens when you release a book out into the world and it encounters a reader, it becomes something new with every reader. Because the whole point of writing is to cast this spell. You're trying to create this moment of shared telepathy where someone else is joining you in a dream and going on this adventure. So an audiobook is like that. You're adventuring with someone else into a world that's so very familiar, yet has a newness to it. So it's a cool experience. Funny though, I usually talk with the actor or actress who is narrating the book, and they'll ask me about pronunciation. And I didn't realize till I had my first audiobook of this experience is that I see the words more than I hear the words. So she'd ask me about pronunciation of certain names. I'm like, I have the faintest idea. How do you want to say it?
Yeah, I get that a lot with there's certain Star Wars books, like especially the books with Thrawn, like reading his full name out. It's like, I've never actually stopped to consider how that would sound in my mind. I kind of just glaze over it, and it's like, yep, that word.
Right. Yeah, you recognize it kind of by the shape of the word. At least I do. The beginning of the word, and you just sort of glide through. There are definitely words in the English language that I've written, and I know perfectly well what they mean, but I have never said out loud and will not, because I have no idea how to say them.
Well, yeah, from a professional, it's okay not to know what every word is exactly sounds like or all that. So yeah, as long as the meaning is there, that's what matters. So leave it to the voice actresses and voice actors of the world to help shape that part of it.
Yeah, they're good at that.
Yes. So I think that's about all I have. So thank you so much for joining me, Sarah. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah. So for everyone listening at home, if you are listening to this as it comes out, it will be the 25th, the 24th. You can get Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark tomorrow, the 25th. Or if you're listening to this late, go pick it up right now. It's available wherever. Find on Amazon, any bookstore, bookshop.org, all those different places. And you can find more about Sarah. You can either check her out on her website, sarahbethdurst.com, or on social media at Sarah Beth Durst. So is there anything else you would like to leave the listeners with before we close out?
Watch more Star Wars, read more books.
It's always,
May the
always
Force
great
be
advice.
with you.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thanks again, Sarah, for joining me, and have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much.
I'd like to once again thank Sarah for stopping by and just talking about the book and Star Wars and everything with me. I had a blast, and I really hope you enjoyed it as well. If you like this, of course, again, I already plugged all of her information. You can check her out again at Sarah Beth Durst, sarahbethdurst.com, and go check out Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark. I really hope you'll enjoy it. As for me, you can always find me at SpicedInPod on both Twitter and Instagram, Spiced In for YouTube, and thespicedin.com. Hopefully I can get some more articles up there in the near future. If you have any feedback for me, feel free to hit me up on any of those. Thanks as always to Gramble for providing the music for this episode, and as always, may the Force be with you.